than 30 seconds of last night's ABC, the 1619 project. Yesterday, Dan told me, and we checked it. Is this Babylon B? Is this The Onion? Is this it's a misprint? It's just going to be on their website? No, they put on 3 excruciating hours of Hannah Nicole. Why am I blanking? Yeah, it'll come to me here. Yes. Yeah, it does not. And we will have a special guest here. Yes, Nicole Hannah Jones. We had a special guy when we started the podcast, Reading, Writing, and Reason. Peter Wood from the National Association of Scholars wrote the 1620 Project. The big lie, and there are several of them, is that America started in 1619 with slaves being brought here. The other big lie, if they get away with it, the country's gone. And that is that we fought the Revolutionary War to prevent the British from declaring an end to slavery and stopping our slavery in the United States. The Brits, according to the best records, ended slavery in the West Indies, where it was still going on, in 1834. That is at least 58 years after we were in the Revolutionary War. And there's a scene in here that was widely criticized from Virginia last night that they showed that was just photoshopped, if you will, since it didn't happen that way. The dates are way off that involve slavery. And the conclusion, I watched it kind of toward the end of it, America's still a racist country. That's what the conclusion is. How in the world does ABC think this has been vetted? Where's the fact checker? Where's the guy from CNN? I could volunteer to be the fact checker walking around with Nicole Hannah Jones every 30 seconds.
But it's a little box in the bottom right, live from Dom Dome.
That's exactly right. And this all leads to what I told you yesterday. Oh, they had voting in Georgia, and they talked about how voting in Georgia is still racist and stopping people. They had records turn out in the midterms, if you remember. We talked about that. But ABC had to go down this path. Reparations in the air. I told you yesterday, Nicole Hannah Jones has reparations math that'll be coming to American schools this fall. Check your local school district to see if they're using it in math class, where math is devoted to figuring out reparations projects. I'm not making it up. It's hard to believe. So Dan and I are watching eagerly to see how ABC did last night against Night Court. I think Night Court had...
Gordon Ramsay was on too, Dom.
Oh, was it the chef?
Master Chef, I think. And then
on
the
CBS?
new series that he has.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's CBS. Maybe it's Fox.
Probably Fox. He's on Fox.
I think it's Fox.
And they had an hour of Night Court last night, all right, to compete with this. They had to bring in the big guns. So we will see how that plays out, and we'll talk with him at 12:30 today. So we got 71 Republicans. That's an awfully big number who voted against the debt ceiling bill. Yesterday, Jeff Van Drew and Scott Perry both said they were voting against it, and Scott Perry's the head of the Freedom Caucus. Van Drew's a bit more moderate. He voted against it. He laid out the reasons. So along comes Rand Paul the last couple of days, and Rand Paul has a different plan, and he's even changed the plan a little bit more. And look, I love Rand Paul, friends with his top guy, and we love having him on. He's come on over the years a lot for a name that big. Problem I have with this is not what Rand Paul is talking about. His plan would force the Senate to start cutting total federal spending by 5% in each of the next 2 years. Now, that would then include Social Security and Medicare. Here's the problem with this, and I wanted to talk with you straight up. Don't pull any punches. Paul claims, and so does Mike Lee, and they're in safe seats, that Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security are the biggest drivers of money that we don't get at. We always talk about discretionary spending and military spending. Well, the problem here, and this probably is going to play out into the presidential race. Ron DeSantis, when he was in Congress, has dabbled with getting into Social Security, some fixes there, some cutbacks. President Trump has always been steadfast, and I liken this. I think Trump gets the base of the Republican Party now more than DeSantis on this and on abortion. It's similar. The Trump base of the Republican Party doesn't want you messing around with things like Social Security. They don't. It's an obvious thing. Trump senses it. He's been on it. He never goes down that path. In fact, he's been critical of DeSantis. Their argument, Rand Paul, is you're never really going to cut this spending down. And I don't fully buy that. I think there's still a lot of areas there that are ridiculous, discretionary. Now, does it mean we could get it down pretty quickly with the Rand Paul? Yes. With the Dine plan, it would be slower. But you go around messing and bringing up Social Security. You know what Democrats want to run on. What else can Biden run on? He can run on this. You're going to be called a racist no matter what you do. So I can't give a formula there of how to avoid that. But we know abortion, you go around with the 6-week DeSantis heartbeat bill, that's going to be big trouble. And if you dance around talking about, now Rand Paul is going to force these guys to vote tomorrow, up or down on meddling with Social Security big time and Medicare here. And the argument, the dilemma, some say is this. If they vote yes to do what he's talking about, well, then Democrats are going to be able to hold that against them. If they vote no, then you're going to hold it against them. I don't think you are going to hold it against these senators if they vote no to Rand Paul and Mike Lee on Social Security. I don't think that's the case. Trump doesn't think that's the case. I think he's right. And if DeSantis goes near this and starts dancing toward this, then I don't think he gets it. I think Trump supporters do not want you cutting back on things like Social Security. 855-839-1210. And Trump has never said that. In fact, he's used it a bit against DeSantis. Now, I also wanted to talk, and we'll break this down because I thought, wow, this is kind of another wild impulse here by President Trump. But I get it now. There is an issue with Ron DeSantis and how he says his name. And they actually talked to a professor on, let's see, let me give the guys full place here with DeSantis's name. They talked to a professor of Italian, teaching Italian, and he says he doesn't like either pronunciation, but the DeSantis is more Italian. If you anglicize it, his wife has said it. He said it at times to DeSantis. Not DeSantis, but D-E-H, DeSantis.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis just can't decide how to say his own name. Most folks say it like I just did.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
DeSantis.
Former President Trump, he says it like this.
Ron DeSanctimonious.
But recently, more folks are noticing that the candidate and his campaign have used two different pronunciations themselves, DeSantis and other times, DeSantis.
At rondesantis.com. I'm Ron DeSantis.
Which one is right? Well, his campaign won't say, so we may never know.
All right, this professor, Dan, first of all, this is Fugazi. The professor is William Connell. How's that guy the chair of Italian studies at Seton Hall?
What's his last name?
Connell.
Spell it.
Connell.
What?
Not cannoli, but Connell.
Hold on, let me get
I need a Professor William
I'm going to get some
Cannoli.
proper Italian music going for us, Tom.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's right. This guy's sitting in the Italian American studies at Seton Hall. Don't send your kid to Seton Hall. My God, that's right. He told
Irish last
Axios it's common for Italian Americans to anglicize their pronunciations, but that DeSantis surprised him. He says it should be DeSantis. DeSantis.
DeSantis.
DeSantis.
DeSantis.
Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantimonious. DAY-SAHN and then T's. T-E-S would be proper Italian.
Ron DeSantis.
Yes, but saying DeSantis is common. DeSantis is unusual because it would spell in Italian, Disantis. Now, I don't know. I suspect anything with any politician. Are they playing with his name here, trying to anglicize it a little bit more? If that's the case, I mean, he ought to be running on being an Italian. We know we have no Italian American as president yet. None. They're all WASP, with the exception of Barack Obama and John F. Kennedy Jr.,
Chris Christie, is he Italian?
his mother.
Okay.
I don't count that. You got to wear the Italian name there. You got to have, because I think they think Chris Christie, the guy might be Irish.
Well, if he took the E off his last name, it would be an Italian last name, right?
Yeah, true. I don't know. Maybe they think he's an Anglo. And look at the other guys running. Trump is like on the Mayflower type. Biden, Irish. Oh, that's right. Biden is another. There's been 3 now.
Well, Biden's everything he wants to be.
Yeah, well, that's true too. But usually it's a WASP. Is DeSantis trying to tone that down a little bit? People are mocking, saying it doesn't matter. You know what? Trump's not going to let up on this. If you can't say your name right, the same every time. Now, Matt DeSantis doesn't say DeSantis, right? DeSantis.
It's just Matt DeSantis.
Yeah, it's
DeSantis.
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 Not DeSantis.
I don't think so.
All right, I say...
That's a Harvard-educated individual. He would know.
I usually say Ron DeSantis. I don't emphasize it as much. I don't say Ron DeSantis.
But DeSantis would be D-I-S-A-N-T-I-S.
That's
right?
what the Italian... That's what Connell says. Yes, Connell.
So what's the proper Italian? DeSantis, right?
Yeah, it would be DeSantis.
DeSantis.
Ron DeSantis. Would America embrace that? Now, we could all say, your name is ridiculous. No, it's not. Not when it comes down to how people... I don't know that Ron DeSantis is perceived as Italian, Dan. I really don't. I don't think of him as that. I don't think of anything ethnic.
I mean, just personally speaking, I've always thought of him as Italian.
You do?
Yeah.
I don't see it there. You know, I don't get that.
Like my association comes with I've known Zioli for a while now, and I've known Zioli as an Italian guy, and I look at Zioli and I look at DeSantis, and I think they look very similar. So I've always just assumed DeSantis to be Italian, similar to Zioli.
All right.
Yeah.
How about me? You don't see me.
Oh well, you're like South Philly. There's no mistaking you as Italian, Dub.
Well, the height might,
Yeah, that's true.
That's on my mother's side. That's where the height helped.
You can see a head over everyone.
Yeah, exactly. All right, phone lines are 855-839-1210. That's how you get in. Let me give you the side question. Tomorrow we have something special. I'm going to be broadcasting from New York tomorrow, from Hofstra. It's the annual Bloviators Convention.
Hey.
I moderate a panel of fellow talk show hosts, Dan. Oh, man,
how does that work?
You need a chair and a whip.
Are you able to turn off their microphones? Are you all?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been at events where there's been physical confrontation over G. Gordon Liddy, who was a talk show host. Another where a guy was babbling on too much, and one of the hosts stood up. Oh no, Alex Jones, and they stood up and said, "Shut up! You're not one of us. Stop the fake."
Really?
Right to Alex. Oh yeah, Alex Jones had to leave the stage. Yeah,
they're turning the frogs gay.
That was a good moment. Sorry, Alex Jones fans. You shouldn't be anyhow. Come on. So The Wire turns 21 tomorrow is the day that it debuted.
Oh.
And a guy on Twitter has been putting up 3 or 4 different scenes every day of his favorite scenes from The Wire. It's got to be 100 of them. So we thought they really show you, I think, a bit dramatized, a real picture of Baltimore. Baltimore corruption, Baltimore language, the accent, the whole thing. I think they capture it beautifully. We're looking for a song, TV show, film, or book that captures a particular place, a particular setting.
I love it.
Yeah. And there's got to be a lot of them. I'll let you go first, Dan. Which one you want to take off?
I don't know if you have this one on your list, but I think it's a great example. I'm going to take it right off the list. How about Chaz Palminteri and A Bronx Tale?
Yes.
I mean, just it encapsulates the Bronx so well. And I also think there's another good film, and I'll put this out there, Jersey Boys on Amazon Prime. It tells the story of, Frankie Valli and all. I think it really does a great job of encapsulating North Jersey at that time in the 50s as well.
Yep. I would say The Sopranos, North Jersey also, with a little bit of a more contemporary 90s, I guess, vibe going on. So that's what we're looking for at the end of your call. 855-839-1210.
Taking one more off the board.
Yes,
Billy Joel's Allentown.
exactly.
Yeah.
So is Rand Paul right? You want him going after Social Security, Medicare. I don't think Trump supporters do. Trump's smart enough to know that. Ron DeSantis kind of swerves into it at times. It's true that he and his wife say the name differently almost on a regular basis. I'm not sure why. You know, a name like Borowski, how many different ways can you say it?
There's a lot.
Yeah?
You'd be surprised.
How would you anglicize Borowski?
Baruski?
Peruski. Yes.
Barrows. I got Barrowski in the past.
You have?
Yeah.
But I have to look up the credits of this guy, Connell, to be the chair of Italian studies at Seton Hall. It's just that story. That just doesn't flesh out. All right, I am coming to your calls. Hit us with that. At 12:30, we're going to talk with National Association of Scholars. Peter Wood wrote a book, 1620 Project. I think you'll pick up a lot of stuff. And ABC putting that on for 3 hours last night is beyond. I mean, it's not only the big lie, but how much can you take of this kind of running down of just every American institution from beginning to end? And we'll talk at 2:00 with our buddy in Ocean City, Keith Hartzell, about they have an emergency meeting today about what they're going to do with the kids due to Phil Murphy. It's fascinating to see what Ocean City does. You're not going to take away that brand, America's #1 family resort, easily, Dan. You think you're coming in there. They may turn the owls loose. I hear that's a proposal. They got those owls on the boardwalk, and they're going to turn them loose, and the kids get off the boardwalk. Yeah, turn them on the beaches. Let's see if those kids want to say, you can't do anything to me. 855-839-1210. You get on board on Talk Radio 1210. All right, that's the side question today. Hit us with that place like Baltimore that The Wire tells so well. 21st anniversary tomorrow, 855-839-1210. Now, we told you the other day it was like a hostage video. This pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays, his name is Bass. And he apologized in like 15 seconds. He tried his best because he biblically said on his Instagram, all this stuff going on with the Dodgers, et cetera, was way out of line to him, the transgenderism. Came into a game, even after that apology in Toronto, I think he's more of a long reliever, relief pitcher. Listen to the response of the crowd of the Toronto Blue Jays. It tells you everything you need to know about Canada and the Trudeaus, et cetera. Listen to the response when Bass is announced and comes in as a pitcher. What did the guy do? Is that the Canadian boo?
I didn't know they knew how to boo in Canada.
No, they don't seem like they know
Yeah,
how
right?
to. He apologized for something he shouldn't have apologized for. This is how crazy sports have become. All right, now I mentioned last night the 1619 Project, 3 big hours. This is, and we didn't play it, but it's a good spot to play it now. It's about a minute. This is the speaker at CUNY, the university in New York, where a lot of immigrants went to get a college experience. This is their law school graduate, their president, who's making a lot of news because she's a refugee from Yemen, of all places, who should be grateful. She comes to the United States. In this speech, she attacks Israel. She says the law is white supremacy, and the crowd loves most of the speeches like forever. Here's a little bit of how it sounded.
School of Law for its articulated mission to be law in the service of human needs. One of very few legal institutions created to recognize that the law is a manifestation of white supremacy that continues to oppress and suppress people in this nation and around the world. We joined this institution to be equipped with the necessary legal skills to protect our communities, to protect the organizers fighting endlessly day in and out with no accolades, no cameras, no votes, no PhD grants, working to lift the facade of legal neutrality and confront the systems of oppression that wreak violence on them. Systems of oppression created to feed an empire with a ravenous appetite for destruction and violence. Institutions created to intimidate, bully, and censor and stifle the voices of those who resist.
All right, so that's the presidente of the law school at CUNY. And most people in New York are calling, and I think it'll happen, to withdraw some funds from that. White supremacy. The law is white supremacy. And last night, the 1619 Project on a premier network platform gets 3 hours. And what was in there were two big things. One, America was founded on slavery and racism. Two, it's not really that much different. That's what you get from this. And this is given, there's no fact checkers. There's nothing offered. We're going to offer it with Peter Wood. I think you'll enjoy this guy. I know when we did the podcast with him, people did, National Scholars Group. And he wrote the book, The 1620 Project. America, of course, the horrors of slavery, the evil of slavery, of course. But of course, the Civil War, of course, the Civil Rights Movement. Of course, any number of things that America has evolved to. But no, this is a multi-millions and millions of dollars project in the nation's schools, New York Times, and this Nicole Hannah-Jones. And 3 hours of network TV. I don't remember the last thing that got 3 hours of network TV like this. It's shocking to me that they did it. We'll see what the ratings are around it. All right, is Rand Paul right, too? Now, these guys are going to have to take a position on cutting Social Security, doing things of that nature. You're playing right into the Democrats' hands. They just look for evidence of this. They get footage of it. They never stop. You want to cut Social Security. You want to get rid of Social Security. That and abortion. And Trump has the upper hand on this stuff. You don't hear Trump talking about cutting those kinds of programs. He doesn't. Now, he talks about wasteful spending in general. He might say that, but that wasn't one of his earmarks. I wish he would drill down a little bit more on it. But he's smart enough to realize you are touching the third rail. And Rand Paul is a purist on this. I get it. His plan would relieve more debt. 71 Republicans voted against this. It doesn't seem to have phased McCarthy, though, and his speakership that I can tell yet. That's still a lot of Republicans. They weren't just a Freedom Caucus. Now, Jim Jordan and Marjorie Taylor Greene are fans of this, pushing it forward. So we got all kinds of weird stuff going on with this, all kinds of inside deals. Who knows what is on board, what they see. Jeff Van Drew yesterday completely against this. All right, phone lines are 855-839-1210. Side question today.
Just before we go to the great Peter Wood, I just want to get this out there. I do have ratings for last night's 1619 project.
Yes.
This comes from his TV series finale.com. I don't know how accurate this is. It's according to, they say it's the Nielsen ratings. So,
okay, yep.
Viewers, million. The leader last night during that primetime time slot was FBI Most Wanted on CBS, 3.56 million viewers. Followed by Grammy Salute to the Songs of Paul Simon, which was also on CBS, 2.47 million. It's not until 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a ninth rated in terms of total viewers of the primetime slots last night, coming in with 1.58 million.
Which hour? Do you have that hour, Dan, or just?
I don't have the exact hour.
Okay. No. But not till ninth place.
Yep.
Yeah, but you know what? We're better than you. We're educating America that it's a racist country. That's what you got to boil it down to with Nicole Hannah-Jones and the others. And she'll give it up. She'll say it is. Would you like to defend that?
So looking directly at the 8th time slot, 1619 project, 1.58 million versus Master Chef, which was 2.16.
Yeah, so CNN could compete with this.
FBI Most Wanted, a rerun, no less, had about double the amount of viewers of the 1619 project.
Wow. All right. Maybe CNN will want to get into competition. Hey, can you put that on opposite ups on cable TV? That's about what I expected would happen. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's illustrative. Who is going to sit there and watch this repeatedly? This notion. A lot of it was stuff that people already know. They've already been taught. I don't care what Nicole Hannah-Jones. I don't want to cover anything up. Yes, Dan. Let me go to Pat in Tacony, the Earl of Tacony country. Hey, Pat, welcome in. So, Pat, what is the song or book or whatever that gives us a sense of place? Yes, it definitely gives a sense of Wildwood back in the day.
Song right out of the box. It's
great.
Song.
Yeah, it could be a song, it can be a book, it can be a film, it can be TV. The Wire. Could I, on some days, it's hard to say the best show ever in the history of TV, but I think The Wire's got to be in the top 3.
I agree.
Maybe the top 2 I could even go with. It's that good. It might be the best show we've ever seen on TV. And the reason is the characters. There are at least 5 to 7 characters that are indelible, particularly to me, Omar. Even though he's not the major character, it's indelible. All right. Peter Wood is with us from the National Association of Scholars. He wrote the book, The 1620 Project. You'll get his critique of the 1.58 million they drew last night over a 3-hour period. As far as what did we miss in the history books that Nicole Hannah-Jones found out? How did she find out that the British were going to get rid of slavery when they didn't do it until 1834? And that's what we were worried about. I mean, this is consequential stuff. This takes out America in one fell swoop. He's next on Talk Radio 1210. Let's talk Rhino Shield for a moment here first, though. Thanks to John Gilgee, our good friend of Rhino Shield. He's reached out with a special offer for listeners. Book now and get 20% off your job. So if you've been waiting for the perfect opportunity to beautify your home with a permanent solution to paint, this is it. Rhino Shield looks like paint, does go on like paint, but it never chips, cracks, or fades. It's ceramic coating. It's guaranteed for life. You never have to paint again. I'm impressed with the product and company. It's perfect for any surface. You get the beauty of fresh paint, the maintenance of vinyl, even insulate your home. And for a project as important as this, you want to work with someone you can trust. That's why I'm happy to recommend John Gilgee, the local owner of Rhino Shield. He'll meet with you himself, fully explain the process. He's helped many listeners just like you upgrade the look and quality of their home. Call him right now to take advantage of this 20% offer off just for my listeners. Visit myrhinoshield.com or call 844-RHINO-99, 844-RHINO, RHINO 99. All right, Dom Giordano Show. Yes, on our YouTube today, Dining with Dom. Good to be back with that. Dan, somebody wants to know if we can go paint the Capitol with Rhino Shield. Get it?
Yeah, R-I-N-O Shield.
Yes,
One, yes.
I'm working on that product with John Gilgee.
That's a great one, Newman.
That's under development. All right. Peter W. Wood was one of our first guests on the podcast. How many years ago? How many episodes now of Reading, Writing, and Reason? It drops every Friday. And I remember it because I was really looking for somebody to confront the big lies but the biggest lie of the 1619 Project. How about if ABC puts on the 1620 Project? Maybe a half-hour version as a bit of a rebuttal. What would America say? Let's ask Peter W. Wood, the author of A Critical Response to the 1619 Project, back with us here on Talk Radio 1210. Hey, Peter, thank you. Thanks for coming in again.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, Peter, you make the point to counter it directly and have more expertise in that certainly than I, that it's really the 1620 Project, not the 1776, although that's later. Why do you start at 1620 to counter her premise?
In November of 1620, the people we call the Pilgrims had arrived off the coast of Massachusetts. They were fighting with each other. Half the ship was made up of people who had nothing to do with the Pilgrims. They were just secular settlers on their way to the New World. And when the ship was off course and about to land in a place where there were hostile Indians and no food, they were almost at blows over what to do next. The secular component thought, well, we're now outside the jurisdiction of England. We can go wherever we want and do whatever we want. And the Pilgrims' leadership was saying that's a recipe for disaster. So they sat down and spent a tense night negotiating, and they came up with a document that we call the Mayflower Compact. It's very short, about 200 words, and it basically lays out a vision of self-governance. It shows how people who disagree with each other, even on fundamental matters, can come together and form a cohesive community under the rule of law with elected leaders, and they then put it into practice. So it became, in effect, the first charter for American independence, about a bunch of people who differ from one another, but who agree that they can work together to create a fair-minded, lawful community. I say that that's the real beginning of the United States, not the happenstance arrival in Virginia about a year earlier, when the people of Virginia unwillingly took on 20-some captives from Africa. Nicole Hannah-Jones' 1619 Project attempts to make that to be the founding event in American history, and it just isn't. So I think 1620 is a better place to begin.
Yeah, I do too. And then the idea, and I've spent some time myself, but you're more the expert on this, certainly written the book, that we went to war with England because they were ready to cut off slavery. We knew it. I've seen historians said it that the British freed the West Indies in 1834 or so. That's a good long time from the start of our revolution.
Well, it's an audacious lie to try to make out the American Revolution as having anything to do with a threat by the British to end slavery. The British were engaged in a very profitable exercise in bringing slaves to the New World. The biggest complaint that Americans had at the time was that they were bringing too many slaves. The very beginnings of the abolitionist movement had started in the United States. Even slaveholders were doubtful about whether this is something that should be sustained. So Nicole Hannah-Jones has it backwards. The American Revolution was about freedom for all people eventually, but the idea that it was anything about attempting to maintain slavery is just good for a hearty laugh. Unfortunately, it's being taken seriously by way too many people.
We're talking with Peter W. Wood, his book, The 1620 Project, A Critical Response to the 1619 Project. I got on this yesterday, Peter, Professor, because my producer noticed this, that ABC was going to put on 3 hours of this last night. And I noticed that Nicole Hannah-Jones has a new project due to reparations math, that'll be in the nation's public schools in the fall. And it's a 5 or 6 lesson or more, depending upon the teacher, around reparations projects, the use of math, and weaving that in and out as if the math scores are good enough. You've written a rebuttal to this, second to none. Are you surprised at how far this has gone?
Yes, I am. When I was back writing the book 1620. In the months following the initial release of the newspaper version of the 1619 project, I was worried that by the time I finished writing the book, the thing would have been forgotten, that this was such an absurd idea that even with the financial backing of the New York Times, this would not last beyond 6 or 7 months of notoriety. So, yes, I will admit I was wrong about its longevity. It turns out to be a huge success of the marketing prowess of the New York Times, basically. The very last page of the newspaper supplement, the New York Times Magazine, in which the 1619 project was launched, it was titled the 1619 Project in Schools, and it's an announcement by the Pulitzer Center that they intend to make the 1619 Project into a curriculum. Unbeknownst to everybody at that point was that the Times had already succeeded in getting the agreement of teachers' unions and various teachers around the country to launch the project right in the fall of 2019. And so before we knew it, the 1619 project was being taught to kids as young as first grade as historical fact, truth. And it has since then become just this monster that has swallowed up American K-12 education. I doubt that there's a school in the country where you would not find at least some piece of the 1619 project being presented as though it is the actual record of American history. So a whole generation of students will grow up thinking that 1619 was a great important date because it's the beginning of slavery, and that the rest of America in the intervening 400 years has been nothing but a tale of white oppression of blacks who were either enslaved or became the victims of the echoes of slavery down through the generations.
It
That's
is.
what's being taught.
It is amazing. And is your book still available out there, Amazon and the like? Is there a website you'd point listeners to?
Well, the book is available through Amazon, and if you want to learn more about it, go to the publisher's website, which is Encounter Books. And the book is done very well. Every time Nicole sells 100 copies of her book, someone buys a copy of mine. So.
All right, we have to keep her going to keep Peter W. Wood going. Peter, I hope you have a great summer, and thank you for coming back. We'll be talking again at some point. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye.
Peter W. Wood. I remember that. I think it was the second podcast. I told Dan, I can't take this anymore. And that's a few years back. All right. You heard quite a good breakdown there of what's going on with this, how dangerous it is, and the evidence. ABC putting on 3 hours of it out of the blue one night. And reparations toward the end, the last hour at least, were the centerpiece of this. Be looking for that coming to your school. School boards may not even approve it. They send it to teachers and they just supplement it, put it into the classroom. Reparations math, a way to engage kids in what? More grievance, more arguments. Phone lines are 855-839-1210. We have 3 people shot in Philadelphia. The news is where they were shot. It's almost like you can't write this. 40 shots fired. I'll tell you where they were shot and why it ought to shock even Philadelphia. And your calls. Hit us on that side question. We got Wildwood Days already. A song, book, film, TV show that captures the feel of a place. One that does it really well. 855-839-1210. Dom Giordano Show. Welcome in 855-839-1210. You get on board. Side question. Hit us with that song, that book, film, TV that really captures a particular place or setting. Now, I mentioned 3-shot, 40 bullets fired. No big deal in Krasnerland. By the way, no Krasnerland today. I'm headed off to New York for the big Bloviation Fest tomorrow. Imagine I'd say 250 to 300 bloviators like me, or some even bigger bloviators together. It's a talk radio convention.
You're going to wear earplugs there? I feel like the volume of that event, like people talking over one another, it just gets louder and louder.
Well, I'm kind of surprised there are not mobs of paparazzi and fans there at Hofstra, Dan. These are the creme de la creme of talk radio hosts.
Yeah.
Rich Zioli will be there. I'll be there. Greg Stocker will be there on a panel. They ought to have a producers panel. I'll get you as the moderator one of these years.
Ooh.
How to deal with these divas of talk radio.
You are not a diva, Dom. Don't say that about yourself.
And I will be moderating how to navigate a talk radio show career tomorrow. But I'll be doing the show from there.
Is that really what it is?
Yeah.
Your panel?
Yeah, it's a panel.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like you're the perfect host for it.
Yeah, it's just getting to Hofstra. I leave at 5 o'clock tomorrow, and then all bets are off.
How long does it take you?
It took me 2 hours and 20 minutes last year to get there. But coming home, it took about 3 hours and 40 minutes.
Because you're in rush hour?
Oh, my God. Rush hour, New York, and getting to that Verrazano.
Isn't it the Cuomo Bridge now?
No. Oh, no. I hope not. The Narrows.
Verrazano?
The Narrows is the second part of it. Don't like that bridge, the build up to it. It's looming like for miles. You can see it there.
Last year, Fisher-Pine Leslie gave you some advice as to how to get home. Are you going to follow that route again, you think?
Yeah, I took Route 13 instead of exit 13 instead of 16. 16 is George Washington. 13 gets you around Long Island. I think she was right. At least going there was much better. And then the kids at the radio station, producers and the like, kids going to college at Hofstra, they help out. They're all around all the biggies of talk radio. So
hey, I'm going to take another side question off.
Yes.
I think this song greatly encapsulates New York,
There
Manhattan, where you're going tomorrow, man.
Yeah. That will be tomorrow's side question. We're telling you already, a lot of advanced planning, something significant out of New York tomorrow, since that's where I'll be. That'll be a million. Even if you hate them, you got to say there's a lot of stuff from New York. Yeah. Okay. Now, 3 were shot. Why is that news? They were standing for some reason, Dan, in front of the emergency room, or the entrance to the emergency room at Temple University Hospital.
Wait, what?
Yes.
Wait, so hold on. Back. I sorry. I had my head. You're telling me there's a shooting outside the emergency room at Temple University?
I sent it to you if we had done Krasnerland today.
What?
3-shot, and they had a short trip to get inside the emergency room. 40 bullets shot at them.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm trying to picture that side entrance to Temple Hospital emergency room, one of the biggest imaginable in the area. That's where they're shot. And I read some details. I think Steve Keeley saying they only had to go a few feet to be in the emergency room.
Wow, Dom.
It's just an endless cycle of just outright craziness mixed in with the violence associated with this. Hard to believe. So I think none of them is critical. Then we had the cop shot by a guy wanted for murder there in the Badlands of Kensington last night. All right.
Oh, wait. Hold on. What time was that? Do you know?
It was this morning at about midnight, a little after midnight.
I was driving through Kensington last night around 7 p.m.
Well, that was around 7 p.m.
It was around 7 p.m.?
Yeah, they were chasing a guy.
I have video. I have the helicopter flying right above my head on Lehigh. Yeah.
Well,
I had no idea that's what that was. Oh, man.
It was so big
I got lucky there.
that Danielle Outlaw actually made an appearance there. Now, my sources indicate there's a hot new nail salon there. That's what it was really about. Bro hates it every time I do that. You have to say that. Yeah, I have to. That's going to be your legacy. We've talked about Jim Kenney's legacy. That's the soda tax. What's Larry Krasner's legacy? Well, which one of these incidents do you want to take? That's his legacy.
Hey, I'm determined right now. If you tune over, so every day, Dining with Dom, youtube.com/@1210WPHT. We won't be live tomorrow. Dom's out there at Hofstra, but every day next week we'll be back. Before we get out of here, head over there because I'm going to put that video of the helicopter that I took yesterday right above my head during this whole situation.
Okay. Very nice.
Frightening.
All right. One other thing. Our buddies, Moms for Liberty, This is getting well ahead of it, Dan. We're trying to get way ahead in advance in this. City of Philadelphia libraries, this from the Philadelphia Gay News. They're bracing, as soon as you hear that word, that the right wing, their words, activist group, Moms for Liberty, we had them yesterday. They're coming to town June 29th, I think it is, not too far from where I am. Ron DeSantis will be their special guest, their convention. They are going to be protesting at various public libraries that have drag queen shows and the like. Moms for Liberty will be holding its Joyous Warrior Summit June 29th to July 3rd at the Philadelphia Marriott downtown. Among the speakers, they say, will be right-wing talk show host Dennis Prager. They don't know about DeSantis. We do. And they are going to be protesting all this pride programming they're going to protest at the Philadelphia City Institute on Rittenhouse Square, the Independence Library, Washington Square, and the one on the Parkway. All these branches will be doing LGBTQ-related events like story time, drag queen story time, and the like. So, Dan, that's my mission that day. That's where I'm going to be covering that. Oh, man, expect.
It's going to be a great one.
Book that show on that day. The Moms for Liberty group are not somebody to fool around with. All right, let's go to Bob in Pennsauken.
Bob.
He's on Talk Radio 1210. Hey, Bob, good afternoon.
Hey, Dom. Hey, Dan. Listen, Dan's going to like this one, but I was surprised he didn't take Philadelphia by Bruce Springsteen off the board. But
oh, man.
In keeping with his being, even though it's a good song, he's still a fraud because when he's singing that song on his music video, he's actually walking in Camden.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Really?
Oh,
I'm adding that to my
let's add that to our top 10 reasons to get him.
Fraud.
Yeah, that is a good one, though, Bob. Thank you
Great
for
answer,
that.
Bob.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
the ubiquitous Springsteen shots.
Thanks for the ammo. Appreciate
Coming
it.
up, Lindsey Graham on the floor of the Senate, as this debate goes on the Senate side now about the debt ceiling, concerned that we're not spending enough money on Department of Defense, but slash Ukraine. Yeah, how about if we claw back the money we're spending on Ukraine and give that back to American taxpayers? All right, do they really believe the American people are behind that still at this point? The polling that I see doesn't indicate that. Gut instinct indicates they're not either. All right, 855-839-1210. You get on board next on Talk Radio 1210.